Imagine working full-time, paying for gas, childcare, and food, and ending up with almost nothing left. That is the new reality pushing parents out of the workforce. Picture this for a second. You wake up early, rush the kids through breakfast, fight traffic, put in 8 or 9 hours at a job that already feels draining, then sit at the kitchen table at night and watch your entire paycheck vanish into bills. By the time you finish paying for childcare, rent, groceries, and medicine, there is almost nothing left for savings, fun, or emergencies. Be honest with yourself. Have you ever looked at your monthly budget and thought, why am I working this hard if I am still broke? Here is the hard truth behind that feeling. In the last few years, childcare costs in the United States jumped at a pace that beats normal inflation. Bank data and federal numbers show childcare prices rising about 1.5 times faster than overall inflation. The average annual price for childcare climbed from around $11,500 in 2023 to more than $13,000 in 2024, a jump of more than $1,500 in a single year. For many families, that is more than a year of car payments, just in extra childcare. And that is for one child. Government data says families now spend between about 9 and 16% of their median income on full-day care for a single child. In some states, childcare eats up more of the budget than rent or a year of college tuition. In a LendingTree study, the total cost of raising a child is now close to $300,000 over 18 years, and childcare is one of the biggest reasons the number is so high. When you put those numbers beside flat wages, the math stops working. Now add this next piece. A global survey found that 27% of American parents quit a job or dropped out of education because they could not afford childcare. 2/3 said they find childcare costs hard to meet at all. Other research shows that about 1/4 of parents cut their hours or left the workforce each year because of the cost of care, and 40% end up in debt just from trying to cover it. This is not a fringe choice anymore. It is a pattern. So here's the question that many parents are quietly asking. If your job leaves you with nothing after basic bills, is it still worth doing? Let us walk through a simple example. Say one parent earns a modest salary at an office or service job. After taxes, their monthly take-home might be, for example, $3,000. Now subtract over $1,000 for childcare, several hundred for gas and commuting, a chunk for work clothes and lunches, and the normal share of rent, groceries, and utilities. That paycheck shrinks fast. For many families, the second income does not feel like income anymore. It feels like a pass-through account for daycare and the landlord. If you have ever done that math on a napkin or in a notes app, type "I have done the math" in the comments so others know they are not alone. The decision to quit is not only about money, it is also about supply. Many communities in the United States have become what researchers call childcare deserts. That means there are far more young children than licensed childcare slots. One consulting study found that more than half of Americans live in areas where there are 3 times as many children as available daycare spots. At the same time, thousands of centers are closing as federal pandemic support expires, costs rise, and staff leave for better paid jobs. So parents face 2 hits at once. The price of care goes up and the number of available spots goes down. It is a broken market. Providers cannot pay workers enough to keep them, but parents cannot pay much more without going under themselves. Stuck between those 2 walls, many parents decide that one adult will stay home rather than hand every spare dollar to a daycare that might close next year anyway. This is where the emotional side kicks in. A recent poll found that about 3/4 of American adults see childcare costs as a major problem, and nearly half think it is better for kids if one parent stays home. That belief is now colliding with a labor market that demands long hours, return to office policies, and full-time availability. In one survey of working parents, more than half said they had considered leaving their job because they did not have enough flexibility to handle childcare. So imagine you are a mother in your 30s with a toddler and a school-aged child. Your employer cancels hybrid work and orders everyone back to the office. Daycare costs have just gone up again. There is a wait list at every center near you. You are exhausted. Your kids are acting out because they hardly see you, and your net income after care and commuting keeps shrinking. At some point, quitting stops feeling like failure and starts feeling like self-defense. The data tells the same story from another angle. A federal report shows that about 60 to 70% of mothers with children are in the labor force, but their participation still lags far behind fathers. A private index that tracks work disruptions found that most full-time workers who cut hours or miss work due to childcare problems are women. Another study by a major consulting group found that among parents who actually leave the workforce, more than a quarter pointed to childcare cost as a main reason, and around 60% of households paying for care spend over 20% of their annual income on it. So when you read a headline about moms leaving the labor force, this is what sits underneath it. It is not laziness. It is not a lack of ambition. It is a cold calculation that working full-time while paying for care, gas, and food is making the family poorer, not richer. If that describes your home in any way, tell us in the comments what changed for you without sharing anything too personal. There is another layer that parents feel every single day: time. A job is not only about paycheck, it is also about hours away from your kids. Many parents now feel like they are paying strangers more and more money just to raise their children while they run on a treadmill at work. When the paycheck still does not stretch, the guilt hits hard. You miss school events, doctor appointments, and bedtime stories, and still cannot get ahead. At that point, staying home to care for your kids begins to feel like the more honest use of your time, even if retirement savings take a hit. This is where the long-term danger hides. Every year out of the workforce can mean smaller retirement savings, fewer Social Security credits, and less bargaining power if you try to return to work later. Economists warn that these choices, multiplied across millions of families, can shape the future of the labor market and the broader economy for decades. Parents are not blind to that risk. They are simply choosing the least bad option in front of them. So why are American parents quitting their jobs just to break even? Because childcare has turned into a second rent. Because paychecks no longer cover the full cost of being a parent in this economy. Because the support systems that might help, like affordable care and paid leave, are patchy or missing. And because many employers still treat workers with children as if they have no responsibilities outside office walls. If you are watching this and you are a parent, I want you to answer one question in the comments. When you add childcare, housing, and food together, what percent of your take-home pay do you think disappears each month? You do not need to share exact numbers, just a rough percent. Your answer will help other people see that they are not the only ones who feel squeezed. Here is the bottom line. When job pays so little after costs that quitting looks like a raise in everything but name, something is deeply wrong with the system itself. Parents are not walking away from work because they want to do nothing. They are walking away because the numbers, the stress, and the time away from their kids no longer make sense. If this video helped you see your own situation more clearly, or gave you language for what you are already living, tap like. Share it with a parent who keeps saying, "I do not know how much longer I can keep this up." And subscribe if you want honest talk about childcare, food prices, the retail squeeze, and the wider U.S. economy from the perspective of normal families, not executives.